Okay, have your, this is our main speaker. So everybody just,
Everybody ready?
we got everything going. That is our main speaker.
5:30, October 26th, we'll call this meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. Can we have roll call taking place?
Sure. Supervisor Lewis,
Present.
Supervisor Day,
Here.
Supervisor Ayers. Here. Supervisor McDaniel,
Here.
and Chairman Lyons.
Here. At this time, we'll have an invocation by Mr. Lewis, followed by the pledge.
Dear Lord, we commend our healthcare workers, our fire and rescue agencies, and our local law enforcement for continuing to put their own health on the line to help others during this pandemic. Help us, O Lord, to have faith over fear, to remind ourselves daily that you, Lord, are still on the throne. We pray and believe in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Special announcements. While the room will be open to the public due to the size of the meeting room and social distancing requirements, no more than 30 attendees will be allowed into the room at one time. For the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Executive Order 63. All persons over the age of 10 that do not have a precluding medical condition are asked to wear a face covering. We will hold citizen comments near the beginning of the meeting. At that time, the public is welcome to make comments unrelated to any public hearing. Comments related to public hearing should be held until that item is discussed and the public hearing is open. We'll do our best to take citizen comments remotely. There are two options to offer comments. One, you can join the Board of County Supervisors Zoom webinar. The link is on our county website. To copy into the address line of your browser. You can join by telephone. You may dial in one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, and that's also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window, or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, I have a couple of recognitions. First of all, I'd like to recognize our county treasurer, Betty Travato. She has been recertified as a master governmental treasurer, and that is no easy task, and she's to be commended for that. So I'd like to congratulate Ms. Travato and thank her and her staff for all they do for the county. Second, I'm pleased to announce that the county has been awarded a $770,000 grant from the Commonwealth to expand broadband. On October 8th, the Governor of Virginia announced a new fast track program to distribute $30 million in CARES Act funds targeting rural broadband access across the Commonwealth, with the requirement that the funds had to be expended and service in place by December 25th, 2020. Rockbridge County, the Rockbridge Area Network Authority, and BART Connects moved quickly to identify projects that could be built within the scheduled requirements, applying for a total of $1,140,649 in funding. The application included $770,000 for BART Connect projects and $178,139 for the RANA projects. Rockbridge County applied swiftly, and on Friday, October 24th, was notified that $770,000 had been awarded for the BART Connects portion of the project. BART Connects will match 20% or $192,500 of the grant awarded for the total project expenditures of $962,500. The funds will be used to expand last mile fiber connections in multiple areas of the county. The random portion of the application is still under review. And we have no way of knowing where it presently stands. We hope we will be awarded that as well. I'd like to thank our staff, Miranda and Bark, for pulling this together on very short notice, especially Mr. Suter, who worked over the weekend to make sure the application got in a timely manner. So, Mr. Suter, if you and Ms. Whitten will get together and make sure we get this press release out, I'd appreciate it. All right, this time we'll do citizen comments. Does anyone sign up to address the board?
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone online that wishes to address?
There's no
Okay.
hand raised or chat.
All right, then we'll move on. Has everyone had the chance to review the minutes from the October 13th meeting? If so,
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
And a second. Any further discussion? Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. School appropriation resolution.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. If you go to your board docs package, you'll see an appropriation resolution linked to 4 grants for the school division. The school board met on October, I believe it was October 13th, and they approved the request that came from their staff. And the total amount is $1,206,394. So if there's no questions, the recommendation is to approve the appropriation resolution as presented.
Any questions? Okay, we have a motion to approve. And a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel? Yes. And the chair votes yes. All right, the HVAC contract is not ready, so we'll move on to the funding priorities.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. If you go to your board docs package, you will see a list, a couple set of documents. One is the draft schedule for the budget cycle for FY 2022, and then also the funding priorities. So these were all reviewed a couple weeks ago. The board's finance committee met last Thursday, I think it was the 22nd, and the only edits that were made, and I've included the extra copy on the dais, was that there was a funding priorities that listed 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so we have adjusted those to a bullet format, simply to communicate that budget submissions will be evaluated on each of those items in equality. And so that was the recommendation of the finance committee. Outside of that change, there's no changes or updates from what was presented back on the 13th.
Anyone have any questions or concerns about the budget priorities?
No, the only thing I would add is the hard copy we have has bullet points, but
That's correct.
it was changes made after. Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? If not, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. And a second. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yeah.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Mr. Suter?
Yes. So a request was received from the a resident of the Pond subdivision to approach VDOT about limiting commercial truck traffic through the residential development. At Supervisors Day's request, I did contact VDOT to see what the process was for that. And the process is listed in your package there. And I'm going to show you a map. Got it. Okay, the map is shown here, and I'm trying to see if I can manipulate that at all.
For full screen.
Yeah.
I can do it if you want to talk.
Okay. So the process is the Board of Supervisors reviews the issue, determines whether or not you'd like to proceed with it. And if moving forward, the board schedules and holds a public hearing on the matter. And if after public hearing, the board still determines to move ahead, it adopts a resolution requesting consideration, and staff would forward that resolution to VDOT. And VDOT would then perform a traffic study. And if there are no issues, then VDOT would forward the request to the Commonwealth Transportation Board for consideration of approval. And as noted in there, this involves state routes 1052 Lily Belt Drive, Route 1050, the Ponds Drive, and Route 1054 George William Lane. And the alternate truck route would include portions of State Route 763 Lincoln Road and Route 631 Old Buena Vista Road. There's a 0.3 of a mile difference between the two. It's 0.3 of a mile shorter going through the subdivision than it is going from Old Buena Vista to Lincoln or vice versa. And Susan Hammond, our local resident engineer or residency administrator, is with us this evening via Zoom. Appreciate her being here, and she's here to answer questions that you may have. Hello, Susan. You're muted.
Yes, hello.
I mean, like I said, well, this is in South River District, so I don't want to get too much into your business, but some of my questions and concerns relate not to jurisdictional issues, but on the face of this, I have some concerns about doing this, and then some concerns about the process of how we're here. Initially, I struggle with putting restrictions on state roads at the basis of it. These are, taxpayer roads. If the subdivision was built and then those roads were, the state maintains those. So in other words, we're all paying for those. So I on the face of it, I have trouble with that. And for the process, we have a phone call, and I'm quite sure that happened, Mr. Suter. I don't mean to, I'm not calling that into question, but I would just think for something of this magnitude in my mind of us requesting or making changes again to state maintained roads, that we would have an official request of
Document of some sort.
Yeah, of some sort, to feel good about asking VDOT to then do their work. And don't mean to get in trouble with Ms. Hammond either, but I'm sure she's right about how the process works, but it almost seems odd to me that a state maintained road would be, we would do something before VDOT were to do a study or provide concern. And then as a driver of not tractor trailers, but not passenger vehicles myself, I often, search for the safest and easiest route between 2 points. And what I have discovered just from my own assessment is the if you're going north on Old Buena Vista and you're making a right-hand turn on Lincoln, you can see even on this map how sharp that turn is. And I think anything other than a passenger vehicle would find any other place to be able to try to make that right turn and head in that direction. And even at the Ponds entrance there on Ponds Drive, there is a turn lane off Old BV Road before you even make that right, and it's a gradual turn. And so just from a layman's perspective of, if I were to pick a route in a truck, I'd want to go that way just because it would be safer for me to effect a turn off of Old BV Road. So those are just some initial thoughts that I had when studying this. And I did discuss those with Mr. Day, and we'll see where we proceed. But
And this is,
I just don't feel I have enough information to
Sure.
make what I viewed as a pretty serious decision.
well, and to your point, and again, no offense, Susan, but this is kind of, it's a little bit backwards for us too, because we don't have the capacity to do a study in-house here, and I don't even know what would be involved with the study. So until we get a study, we really wouldn't know. We're just kind of operating on, I don't know, just perception and the little bit that we can see. So-
I had a comment in there that might be helpful.
Please.
Okay. Part of the reason that we're asking for, that we ask for the resolution in advance of us doing the study is to make sure that, because the study is a significant investment on our side. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of things that are taken into consideration, and we want to make sure that the board is fully supportive of us moving forward to do that. We realize too that in requesting the resolution, the outcome may not be what's recommended by the board if you all decide that you want to go ahead and recommend the through truck restriction. But from our end, considering, just in our district alone, that we're dealing with 11 counties that all funnel through the same traffic engineering section to do these studies, that's part of what we're wanting to do, is just to make sure that you all are solid in your request to ask us to take on that task. Does that help?
A little bit. Could I ask some details about what the study might entail? I'm from again, my layman's perspective of, if this was a safety issue, I think this route is the safer route. Speed limit's 25 through there, the turn is easier, et cetera. But what about, and I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure what the issue, all the issues are from the folks in the ponds. I can surmise, but I'm not exactly sure. Is it a safety issue? Is it a frequency issue? Is it a speed issue? Is it what kinds of trucks are going through there issue? So with the study that VDOT does, would it give any information as to character or frequency or size of vehicles or anything like that?
That very thing is taken into consideration on our end when we get into the study. There is a requirement for that a couple of those things have to be met. There are 3 criteria that are in there, and it takes into consideration exactly what you noted. One is if there is a safety issue that is, so we'd look at like crash history. And if there's been anything that's occurred, now granted, this is going to be any reported crashes, it's going to be something that has to have damage, I think, of more than $2,500, and that there is a police report that goes with it, then we have the ability to find that in our tracking system as well. And the other thing is the use that's through there. Say if it is predominantly residential, we'll take that into consideration. If the proposed alternative route is a better alternative than the route that is requesting the through truck restriction, we look at that, look at curvature, all those things get taken into consideration, and also the volume of trucks that go through there now. We would certainly have several days where we would be collecting that data to sort of get a better cross section of the type of traffic that actually uses the roads that are shown.
Interesting. One more question. If it is noted here, through trucks, does a through truck, does that constitute a certain type of truck, or is it just, at what point is what a truck? And then I guess is I think of through trucks as maybe just tractor trailers, but maybe that's not the case. I guess I should have started.
There are actually legal definitions for each one of those. The one that is excluded, I think it's pickup trucks and panel trucks are excluded. But let me clarify something too, that A through truck is a road that doesn't have a destination that is within the route that's shown. So anything, whether it would be propane, or it would be somebody getting a furniture delivery that would be in a large tractor trailer, that is a legitimate use because the destination is within that route. What the through truck puts a restriction on is anyone that would be passing directly through without a destination within that marked area. And then I've got the definition that might be, well, I thought I had it, but my view's expanded. I don't have access to my email. Basically, the designation of a pickup truck or panel truck or pickup truck is that a motor vehicle that is designated to transfer property on its own structure independent of anything additional. So basically what you could fit into a pickup truck would be, wouldn't violate any of the three, the other trucks, like a tractor trailer or a large vehicle. I think it's anything that's under 7,500 pounds.
So I don't, yeah, I mean, again, from the information that I have so far, I don't know what kinds of trucks are, that's really being an issue. I'm struggling with having enough information to ask VDOT to do that.
Do we have similar postings?
Well, that's kind of why we're in this. We really don't. This is kind of a new thing. And one thing that we did try to think about is what are other areas in the county that this could impact as far as precedent. And we were not able to come up with anything that seemed to be an issue. Now, is there some there that we're not aware of? Very well might be. I don't know.
Several of the ones that you all have within the county have restrictions on them in terms of length, which basically means that there wasn't necessarily, or it came about as a request, but it didn't necessarily go through this process. And if we get say we get multiple vehicles that have been stuck in a curve, we may go back and evaluate it just from a standpoint and crash data that comes directly to us. We may go back and evaluate it and determine that, hey, there's a vehicle that if it exceeds X number of feet, it won't fit through there. And from a safety standpoint, we can put that type of restriction up just based on safety alone, but it's not designated as a through truck restriction because it does allow anything that is shorter than that length to use that roadway.
The two that come to mind are Salings Mountain and Route 56, I believe.
Yes.
501 to the county line also.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I agree with Mr. Lewis to the standpoint, my discussion with Sally's Mountain has always been a safety issue because the trucks get stuck and there's some curves that they can't navigate and they run cars off the road. What Mr. Lewis is saying, this perhaps is a safer route. I mean, that's why I would look at, no through trucks if it was a safety issue for other vehicles on the road. Not necessarily, and I don't know that this is an issue or the reason, but a nuisance, I just don't like seeing the trucks come down my road. I don't know that that's an issue or not, but.
And also,
I'm sorry, what I was going to say is, I guess that is, from my mind, it's a function of how many. I mean, if you're talking about a constant stream of trucks going through a residential area, well, I think that might be an issue, but we don't know what that would be, right?
well, I guess I'm still struggling with it being a state road. I mean, those truckers, they pay more in taxes than, for roads. They pay for load, weight, and all that stuff. They have, extra.
It's a hard one. I don't know.
And in my own experience as a business person, I need to take the most effective route, to get my stuff there, the shortest, most convenient routes. It just has a whole lot of impacts, and I want to be sure that we know what all those are.
So listening to everyone, I think we need more information as to behind the request. Other than just the phone, why do they, you know, do they feel it's safety, do they feel there's too many?
I certainly do.
And I'll take some blame and fault for this, for requesting this to the state, but I guess in further thought, I feel much better if the request comes from the homeowners association.
All right, so we go back to them.
If that's,
I mean, I don't think we have enough information to do anything right now.
Right.
And if it's coming from an individual, it carries less weight, I would, at least I think, than if it's coming from the association. And it should be in writing. That's my 2 cents.
I don't think we just take no action, right? It's
You could take no action and if, I just need to know how the board wants to get the information back, whether you want me to bring it back to a meeting, how you would like to get that information shared back.
Well, personally, I'd like to see a written request and review it before, and then communicate with each other on whether we feel we want to address this at a meeting or not.
Perhaps, you know, just besides the request to limit trucking, some explanation.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
what type of trucks, their frequency, why is it an issue?
Yeah.
I can certainly do that. Mhm. Thank you,
Thank you,
Susan.
Sam.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Ms. Huffman,
Yes, sir.
schedule a public hearing on the South River property.
This is a request for a new lease of one of the South River Flood Mitigation Project properties. Sometime, I think it was a little over a year ago, we did a lease for this same property or a portion of it to Tony Jarvis, who has been leasing that property since the county acquired it. As an adjoining property owner. Well, he has conveyed his property to Lee and Peggy Herring, and they haven't expressed an interest in renting from the county those 3 parcels that adjoin their property. It's, I believe, a 3-acre parcel, a 7-acre parcel, and then a 2-acre parcel, all lying north of Camille Lane. There is another piece that was acquired in connection with this that's south of Camille Lane, but that's directly on the river, and the board in the past has directed that we not convey or lease those properties directly on the river so that they're available for public use. Mr. Herring has reviewed the draft lease and the proposed rent, which is based on the amount of tax that a private owner would be paying for these properties. And he has indicated he would like to proceed. So I'm presenting the request to the board to schedule a public hearing if it's acceptable, to consider approving the lease of this property. The next hearing date is, or next board meeting is November 10th. And that is a Tuesday. The meeting is postponed for VACO meeting. So if it's acceptable, it would require a motion to schedule a public hearing for the 10th or some other date if you prefer.
Any questions from Ms. Huffman? Anyone like to make the motion?
meeting in my district, I make a motion to be, set it up for public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. McCain?
Yes.
Mr. Chair votes yes. Thank you, Ms. Huffman.
Thank you.
All right, appointments. looks like we have some good news. Mr. Williams is willing to serve on the Building Code Board of Appeals. No one has any objections.
I make a motion we appoint Mr. Williams.
Do we have a second? All right, any discussion? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yeah.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Melvin has agreed and is willing to serve, continue to serve on the PSA. Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
So
We have a second
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yeah.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. And lastly, Mr. Mullen is willing to continue to serve on the PSA.
I move we accept.
Second.
And a second discussion. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yeah.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. And it is now 6 o'clock. So we will move into our public hearings. And we will start. Mr. Slayton, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very pleased with the outcome and happy to have you in that position.
I'm excited to be in that position. Look forward to working with the board, planning commission, and everyone else. So thank you for that. Tonight we have 2 public hearings for the same piece of property, depending on the outcome of the first one. Bear with me here. I'm going to share the screen. Let's see here. All right, again, it's one of 2, right now is one of 2 public hearings pertaining to the Heaveners Mobile Home Park. The first one is the application for a conditional rezoning from the general residential R1 district to the general business district. To review the area zoning map on the screen there, the dark red is general business. Most of it is conditional. The yellow is the general residential, and then the clear area towards the east is actually the city of Buena Vista. The tract that's outlined to be proposed to be rezoned is outlined in orange, and that is, of course, owned by Heaveners Mobile Home Park, LLC. The property, again, is owned by Heaveners Mobile Home Park, LLC. Managing member, Miss Lemon, has made an application to conditionally rezone the 5.00 acre parcel, further defined as tax map number 77-13-1B3. The 5 acre parcels is adjacent to existing Heaveners Cars and Truck sales lot at 785 Long Hollow. Just to get everyone oriented, if you can see my pointer here, this is, of course, 785 Long Hollow. The existing car and truck sales here. This would be going south towards the city of Buena Vista itself, and then traveling north would be going towards Middle Road and the landfill. Currently, the property is zoned in R1 in the general residential zoning district. Application is conditionally rezoned the parcel to B1 in order to develop a storage business on the parcel. The submitted proffer states, and that would be by the managing member, Miss Lemon, states to utilize the property for storage business per section 605.03-12, and to utilize the subject property for single family dwelling or 2 duplex family dwellings per section 605.02-4, both of the Rockbridge land development regulations. This is contiguous to existing business zone to the south. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on October 14th, 2020. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of the conditional rezoning with acceptance of the proffer statement itself. Mr. Dowdy is here to represent to represent the project, but we were going to save most of the discussion, depending on the public hearing and y'all's discussion, we're going to save most of the presentation for the next public hearing pertaining to the storage unit itself, obviously, depending on how this discussion goes.
Anyone have any questions? Then we will now open the public hearing for comments. Has anyone signed up? Anyone electronic?
I can see that. There is one attendee, but let's see, there are no hands raised. And there are no questions and answers or chats. So it does not appear so.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion of the board? Hearing none, are there any motions?
I move we approve the request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? And a second. All right, any further discussion? Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McCain? Yes. Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
All right, thank you. The second public hearing is on the same property. Bear with me here. Yes, that is sharing. Let me do this. All right. Again, property is owned by Heaveners Mobile Home Park LLC. This is an application for a special exception permit in the general business B1 zoning district. Same thing as last time, and I apologize. I actually thought I had updated this map for anticipation of this, but of course, the outline parcel was just rezoned to business with the acceptance of the proffers. Dark red on the map to general business B1, yellow is the residential, and of course, the property is outlined in orange. The application for special exception, the property is owned by Heaveners Mobile Home Park LLC. Managing member, Ms. Patricia Lemon, has made an application for a special exception permit. The 5-acre parcel is adjacent to existing Heaveners Cars and Trucks lot. That's address is 785. This address is actually 799, that house that's associated with this parcel here. The property is located within the B1 with proffer zoning district. Application is for a special exception to develop and operate a storage business per section 605.03-12 of the Rockbridge County Land Development Regulations. The Planning Commission held their public hearing on October 14th, 2020. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of the special exception application with the following conditions. Number one, substantial compliance with the site plan entitled Heavener Mini Storage, prepared by Civil Consulting Group PC, dated September 1st, 2020, and including the continued maintenance of landscaping in presentable condition. Number two, approval contingent on VDOT, Building Department, and Erosion and Sediment Control, Stormwater Management approvals. And number three, additional screening along Long Hollow Road to further buffer the proposed storage units for from the residential dwelling across Long Hollow Road. And so I would like to mention that condition number three. I'm going to save the nuts and bolts of the site plan itself for Mr. Dowdy. One, there's a significant screening to the northeast to buffer the existing single-family dwelling property that's located here. There's really no buffering along that side currently. So there's a significant buffer plan that's associated with this. The condition number three, well, let me just point this out. This is the existing tree line located here. It's where my pointer is going here. It actually wraps around like this and then comes back around to this area, coming around there. So those trees, the large majority of those trees will be preserved. As stated in the agenda item, the third condition that states additional screening along Long Hollow Road to further buffer the proposed storage units from the residential dwellings across Long Hollow Road. Again, as discussed in the agenda item, this condition was drafted at the Planning Commission meeting. The main concern that the Planning Commission expressed was the automobile headlights from the site. shining on the dwellings across the road. Last Wednesday, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Dickie Hevner and Mr. Steve Dowdy in attendance tonight's Green Forest Surveying to review the need for supplemental plantings as recommended in condition number 3. And I took these pictures. I thought it'd be beneficial to share with the board. This is going to be looking back towards Buena Vista, the site being on the right-hand side here, this being the existing tree line. This is looking towards Buena Vista would be behind us, looking towards Middle Road, the landfill going straight, and this would be the existing tree line. So the large majority of the existing trees will remain along the road in the proposed storage units. There's also an elevation change, and that's shown really in both pictures. If I can try to move this down here. This would be the entrance coming out. This is the elevation change, and it continues to rise. The 2 dwellings that are under question now are just right outside the photo there. But there is an elevation change between the proposed units and the dwellings across the road, with the site being lower than the dwellings across the road. Another factor to consider is the location of the proposed entrance and the dwellings across the road. So this picture, I'm actually, fine. From current slide, I'll try to move this picture. I'm actually parked in the entrance itself, going across the road. So one thing that's not going to be buffered and really can't be buffered is obviously the entrance itself. And that will have a relatively large impact on the neighbors across the road as far as headlights go. So another factor is considered location of the proposed entrance and dwellings across the road. So in a nutshell, after further review of the site, the existing trees, the elevation change, and the fact that Long Hollow Road itself is between the site and the dwelling, staff feels like the existing trees on site may be adequate to address the Planning Commission's concern. It's also unusual. Through the special exception process, we have required buffers in the past, but the main one I can think of was the Holocene project on the corner of Walker's Creek and Walker's Creek Road and Route 39 itself. That did require some landscaping buffer for the solar project itself. But with commercial properties, it is unusual to recommend that buffer along a public road because it's just that, it's a public road. And so any concerns with the headlights and that stuff, would be, obviously the same concerns with Long Hollow Road itself. With that, I'd like to turn over the meeting to Mr. Steve Dowdy and to review additional details of the site. I'm going to pull back up the site plan and let me try to move this over here. Actually, I'll move it up here and we can piggyback off this slide.
Thank you, Chris. I'm Steve Dowdy. I'm with Green Forest Surveys out of the big city of Buena Vista. Thank you for letting me visit. I'm here because Hunter Young, who is this engineer for this, who would normally present, is being in isolation because he tested positive for COVID. And he figured you didn't want to see him. So first thing I'd like to do is as a professional that works closely with your planning department, is thank you for appointing Chris and elevating Brandy. They represent the county very well. They're good to work with, and they both have the backbone to tell me no when I need to be told no. So thank you very much for that. Just so you understand who the engineer is, Hunter Young, several consultants out of Botetourt County. For several years now has done the engineering for Southern Virginia University in Buena Vista. He does a large portion of the engineering for the city of Buena Vista. He's done several engineering projects for the city of Lexington, and he's been the major engineer for the Horse Center here in Rockbridge County. So he's familiar with the county. He's familiar with all of your agencies. He has worked well with everybody. So that's my sales pitch, so you're comfortable with Hunter. The project has made as small a footprint as possible to still be economically feasible. It's less than an acre of footprint. The land behind the project that is away from Long Hollow Road. On top of the hill above it is a brownfield project. It'll never be developed. And between this project and the top of the hill doesn't lend itself to more commercial use of any kind of density. It's a small project, 2 structures on it, one a little larger than the other. A total possibility
of 120 units, 122 units in the project. Probably be less because those are minimal sized projects, and anytime you have storage units, some folks want bigger projects, so there'll be a combination, and I suspect more between 80 and 100 storage units. Some of those units, I think about 20% of them are intended to be heat, cool, electricity in them. So that, because there's some need for that. Some folks want to store liquid, and you've got to have some electricity to do that. One thing I would like to mention is the property is owned by Helver Mobile Homes. This is not intended to be mobile homes. Helver Mobile Homes is a corporation that was formed for the owners to have a mobile home in Buena Vista. I'm sorry, a mobile home park in Buena Vista. And they no longer are owner of the park, but they did not rename their corporation. I'm here to answer questions, make you comfortable with it, or carry back your concerns.
How much lighting?
Lighting will be on the building. It will be properly shielded. It will not leave the site. It'll always leave the site, but it'll be shielded as per the county regs and in compliance with the request from the federal government because they want their parkway shielded from light. So it's from that perspective, it's low light.
Are you familiar with the John May site, which was Mrs. Hebner's father?
Yes.
Now that's just to the south.
That is to the south. As you leave the entrance to the south, you pass a house that comes before the car lot, and then after the car lot is the Mrs. Hebner's old home. I think if we're talking about the same one, her home is a brick home, or was it? I don't know how. It's still a home, but it's no longer her home. So I don't know how you say it.
Chris's Corner is there to the north, right there. Is that a house?
Yes, that is a house. And that is the house that's on. So the property, this property is as outlined in orange. The current access and the proposed access to the storage units itself is this intersection here. And then the storage units are in this area here. And so that is an existing house. And that's why in the proffer statement, we allowed them, or the proffer statement states that the property can be utilized for the storage units or single family dwellings or duplex if they ever chose to do so. So I do know, and I'm not familiar with that term of that house, but I do know this is the Hebner's house. They also own this property here. This is the car lot, and this is another house they own.
The screening on the project house that looks like it's to the north here is 857. There's heavy screening planned to protect that home. And that home has been notified it's happening, had opportunity to personal conversation with those folks, and we've gotten no negative feedback from them.
So to piggyback off that conversation, this may have been a better idea to utilize the aerial photo versus the site plan. Sometimes it's easier to get oriented that way. Again, traveling north is towards the landfill, traveling south is to Buena Vista. This is the property line along here that has those plantings that will remain, that's proposed. Evergreen, double row, staggered row of evergreens, again, to be planted in this area here. All of these trees along the drainage ditch here will remain, or the large majority of them will remain. I can't necessarily say all of them, but if they have root system in the drainage ditch themselves, they will remain. So very few of these will be removed, but that's where that condition that the Planning Commission, and again, that condition was additional screening along Long Hollow Road to further buffer the proposed storage units for from the residential dwellings across Long Hollow Road. So those would be, in a nutshell, these three dwellings here. And that's where we met on site last Wednesday and looked at this existing vegetation and really realized that two things. One, this site is lower than this potential site. And then the headlight concern is can't be addressed, I should say, coming out of this entrance itself. So the entrance stays, yes.
There's no way to change that entrance or to that angle so that
No, I mean, there always is a way, but as far as the culvert pipe across of it, you know, that it's not being proposed that way. No, ma'am.
The other way is VDOT frowns on anything other than a 90-degree entrance.
And as Mr. Downey said, you know, of course, per this process with the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, the notice of public hearing was sent to all the direct adjoiners, including those across the road. And we have not heard any concerns. We didn't hear any comments from anyone on this special exception or the rezoning itself.
Will this entrance be gated?
It will not be gated. It's not the plan to gate it. So access will be 24 hours a day. Not a lot of units, and looking at other storage units, unless it becomes a meth lab of some sort, there probably won't be middle of the night traffic.
That was-
I didn't say that in public. I apologize.
And we do, the planning commission recommended this, plus more screening, and you went back and studied, and the more screening for the one place you view is already in place.
That's correct. That's correct. And another, going to the plan itself, you know, piggybacking off that idea of car headlights and that type of thing, we thought it's per requirements on the regulations one, and you know, most of the traffic is going to be parallel to Long Hollow Road, if you will. And so this was necessary on ground and per ordinance. So the other one, again, is this tree buffer here. And it should be noted, you know, obviously if you're utilizing this says storage units, or this says storage units, or even the backside storage units, the lights won't be an issue because you're blocked by the building itself. It's really only when someone would pull in here and then like reverse in, you know, to put their tailgate or whatever it may be to that unit that you're going to get some light shining here. Again, the caveat to that statement is once you pull back around here, your lights are going to be at this location here already. You know, so the storage units are here.
Go back to the other.
Yes, sir.
And what is the drainage ditch creek line?
Drainage ditch creek line is right through here. This solid dash right through there is the existing line of the existing channel. And again, the biggest point of using this existing entrance is they did not get into widening the culvert or creating a new bridge or something like that. So to answer your question directly, it's this line right here. And so there are trees on the south side of the ditch and to the north side of the ditch.
Can you go back to your picture of the street view?
Yes.
The street view says the one you took.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There you go.
So the trees right along Long Hollow, is that, so you're saying there's another set of trees behind that on the property?
Well, no, you can see it here. There's more trees on this side. There's I think it's a correct statement to say there's more trees on the Long Hollow side of the ditch line than on the storage unit side. However, there is another set of trees proposed, and I can't really show you, but it's along going this way, you know. Not there are no additional trees planned other than what's there now, and the existing trees that would be running perpendicular to the road itself. And so remembering this picture and this picture here, if I go back here, that existing one, you know, obviously I'm standing at this location shooting up the road, and then also standing at this location shooting back down the road. So what is not shown there is what's not there yet are all of these evergreens that are being proposed.
Yeah, I understand. I thought you said initially that there was a tree line that kind of came from where the proposed trees are.
Yes.
South and curved around and came back.
This way.
Yeah.
Yes, there are, and those trees
Where is that second row of trees?
right here, all of these.
It's not a second row. It's a cluster front to rear with a creek running through it.
Okay. All right.
Only it's not a creek, it's a dry ditch, except when it's a creek.
I'm sorry, I see what you're saying. Yes, sir.
I'd also like to point out that as you look at the site plan, the building that's furthest away from Long Hollow Road is elevated a couple of feet above the one nearest. So therefore the ground slopes, so your headlights are pointing down no matter where you are when you're looking at Long Hollow Road. And that was to accommodate drainage. It just happened to be lucky that it also accommodated headlights when they're facing towards Long Hollow Road. You're always facing down.
So this is, again, the rear of it. This is a proposed retaining wall. And so all of the drainage is going back down towards the drainage ditch itself. So it is sloped slightly that way now, but that will be further excavated to have that drainage going down.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, now I ask a question. I don't want to muddy the water, but what's the stormwater drainage?
To the existing ditch.
Okay.
And that was deemed, I think it's a correct statement, that was deemed an adequate channel.
Yes, that's adequate channel. Now during construction, there's a sediment pond that'll be covered at the end of construction, and proper bailings and all the other erosion and sediment. But after it's all completed, drainage runs two things. If you look at the building on the back, drainage behind the building, drainage will run from left to right and then down a ditch on the right towards the creek. When it gets to the creek, I keep calling it a creek and that's a mistake, towards the drain.
So this is not a creek.
No, it has no, it actually is not, it's not named on the USGS quad. There's no floodplain associated with it. It is just a drainage, if you will.
Most times dry ditch.
And the biggest part, there's no 100-year floodplain
Where
associated
does
with it.
that feed? Where's this dry ditch going?
Uh,
What's the nearest water?
I know it starts at Jordan Road, which isn't very high up there, but as far as where it goes.
It goes down Long Hollow Road and eventually under the railroad culvert in Buena Vista.
And I could pull by GIS for the final destination, I assume, is the Maury River.
Yes.
With that, yes.
Sorry. It goes to the Maury River.
How far down the stream?
A mile plus.
Yes, eventually it'll go to the farther than that. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a mile plus before there's water in that drainage. Unless there's not.
Was that a pun intended on you?
I thought about that right after I said it, and no, it was not intended.
I'll give you credit.
Yeah.
Chris, on the staff, not necessarily conflicting with the planning commission, but addressing the issue after, was there any communication with the landowner and they didn't feel it was necessary, or?
Well, Steve actually, so it was unusual, and I always try to poll the planning commission the day of the meeting to say, hey, any concerns, anything do you look at? We've looked at the site many times, but once you start looking at it with different sets of eyes, it was not known to me that they were going that we were going to draft a third condition at the meeting. With that being said, I'm always very upfront with the planning commission, and they know it as well as anyone else. The board can add conditions, they can subtract all the conditions, and or modify any condition. So we even said at the planning commission that we would meet, look at it, the need of it, and supplemental plannings. In a perfect world, if y'all think there is a need for those supplemental plannings, what my goal meeting Mr. Dowdy and Mr. Hebner at the site last Wednesday was to really identify where those would be going and then have those shown on a plan, because that's just proper planning, as far as saying, okay, well, here's a void, and here's a void. But knowing that the overall concern was those headlights, and looking at the site layout, how it's, sort of traveling parallel to the road itself, and that elevation difference, I really didn't see the need to have those additional plantings, especially because you're buffering between Long Hollow, a public road itself, with a business that's not highly used. It is 24/7. I'm not saying you're not going to get any traffic in there, after dark or, midnight type thing. But, generally speaking, I would assume that it's more, daytime traffic than it is nighttime traffic.
Are they always I mean, are they always 24/7 or storage open 24/7?
Most storage units are 24/7. Some storage units are gated, but the folks that have access, the folks that rent a unit or lease a unit, almost always have a 24/7 key to get in it. So they may be gated and fenced, but I don't know of anywhere that are open certain hours to those who lease the property.
And I'll caveat to that. We have both. We definitely have both in Rockbridge County. We have some that are ungated, open access all the time. And then we have 2 that I know of that are actually gated with a keypad. Of course, the one right by Tractor Supply, that's open access all the time. It doesn't have a gate whatsoever on Lexington City side of Tractor Supply. And then the one out by Lehigh, that has a gate around it and a punch access code are the two that one has a gate, one doesn't.
I've lived in some urban areas. There are even places that are gated with a guard, but you show your card and you get in.
So this is a public hearing as well.
Right.
Okay.
We'll get to that. Let's see if there's any more questions, sir.
Chris, would it be fair, not necessary, and I don't mean to muddy the waters either, but would it be fair to say the use of the existing trees is allowable for the screening, but if there's any holes to be filled in?
Yeah, and that's actually what we tried to do. So the existing, per the plan that's already referenced here, it will require these new plantings and for the plantings itself to be maintained per the conditions and per plan. And so we really looked at it thoroughly on Wednesday, and I really didn't see one drastic hole that would have to be covered, type thing. With that being said, we were still leaf on, and so I think they're obviously going to have more visibility, vice versa, when we're the dead of winter, obviously. But with that being said, I did find it unusual that we were again buffering along the public road just for visibility both ways, for the business's visibility going there, security reasons, and both.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The only reason I can see the need for buffering is if somebody had backed into one of those units and the headlights was facing out, being a distraction to the driver going up down Long Hollow. I agree with you, during winter, it's not really a matter of the leaves, stuff like that. That's why I'm saying if they could use the existing, if there is a hole, put something in it and move on, rather than requiring them to put all new through there.
Yeah, and that's the way it stands now, the planning commission's recommendation. And that really what I would like to do is probably go back and meet them on site. And now the leaves are a little bit off and identify those and put them on the plan. I think that's just the proper way to do it. So there's no miscommunication of where it was, but the draft that the planning commission had was additional screening along Long Hollow Road to further buffer the proposed storage units from the residential dwellings across Long Hollow Road. So that's how it was proposed to begin with. As far as your comment, can we go in after the fact and look at any holes type thing?
Yeah, my personal opinion, I don't know that you need additional, just fill in if something's missing or for some reason something gets knocked down.
Maintain.
Yeah, it needs to be maintained.
And that is already in there. So the conditions are substantial compliance with the site plan titled Heavener's Mini Storage prepared by Civil Consulting Group PC dated September 21st, 2020. That's of course this plan, and it shows the new trees here, and it also shows that going into the tree line as shown here on both sides of the creek. And it goes on to say, and including the continued maintenance of landscaping in presentable condition. So I would read that as, this is including on that landscaping in presentable condition.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time and attention.
All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone signed up? Anyone electronically?
There are no one electronically.
Okay, great. Then we'll close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion among the board? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I assume a motion would have to either include or exclude item number 3 from the planning commission.
But we only have to exclude it because it's already in there. If you don't want item number 3, you would exclude.
That is correct. Yes.
Based off recommendation of staff, I'll make a motion to approve excluding item number 3.
Okay. We have a motion to approve excluding item 3. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Thank you. Next, Chris.
Yes, I'm going to skip this. So I'm gonna put, I do not have a PowerPoint for y'all on this next one, but I would like to share the screen once again. And this is just a PDF that we've been working on and attempted to keep you all up to date on the Planning Commission follow-up, of course. And just sort of starting from the beginning, at the August 12th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, the commission discussed possible amendments to land development regulations pertaining to the current uses by special exception in the R1 district. Current ordinance defines golf courses and golf driving ranges, but does not define country clubs. And so while golf courses and golf driving ranges are used by special exception in the agricultural general use A2 district and the agricultural transitional AT district, their uses not these uses are not permitted in the residential zoning district. Golf or driving range are also used by special exception in the B1 business district. At the September 9th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, staff presented draft language that would provide for golf courses and country clubs as a use by special exception in the residential zoning district. The current draft language modifies the statement of intent, which is here, and then also defines country clubs itself, defines country clubs and provides for golf courses and country clubs as a use by special exception in the R1 district. So again, what we've done, we have not modified the golf courses. We've just allowed that by special exception. That definition remains as the same. We've added, along with golf courses, we've added country clubs to the list of special exceptions in the R1 district, and we've also made that definition, drafted that definition of the country club itself. And so again, in review, the current draft language modifies the statement of intent, defines country club, and provides golf courses and country clubs as a use by special exception in the R1 district. After review and discussion, the Planning Commission instructed staff to advertise the draft language for public hearing for the October 14th, 2020 meeting. At the October 14th, 2020 meeting, the Planning Commission held its public hearing, and after some discussion and modification on the draft language, the Planning Commission has recommended approval of the draft text amendment that's before you tonight.
Chris, how did this come about?
Well, the country club, currently the Lexington Golf and Country Club is located in the R1 zoning district, while a portion of the country club is located in the city. The large majority is in the county. That includes most of the golf course itself and then all the country club facilities. And so we've discussed with them some possible modifications to the golf course itself and the facilities. And in a nutshell, they don't have a path forward. They're not a permitted use nor a use by special exception in the residential zoning district. And I can pull up the map now. The country club, the golf course, and the majority of the surrounding development is in the residential zoning district. So this public hearing tonight does not, this is a countywide amendment that would pertain to all residential zoning district. But also what it gives them being the Lexington Golf and Country Club, it gives them a path forward. If they do choose to do some improvements, they would be able to apply for a special exception. Again, now they're not a permitted use and they're not used by special exception in the zoning district.
So they approach the county.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna recuse myself.
And that may be fair, but this is a county-wide amendment, but it was obviously propelled forward by some proposed improvements. Yes, sir, I understand.
If they're not in the existing zoning,
Yes.
and they're not special use, how do we help country club city?
Well, it predates zoning. It's a couple different things. One, it predates zoning. The golf course itself definitely was built in the late 60s. And so zoning was incorporated till the 70s. I do also know that there were some variances given by the Board of Zoning Appeals in the late 90s. With that being said, the state law has drastically changed since that time. And so we would not be we certainly would not support a variance of that nature nowadays. And so in a nutshell, it's a little bit of both of those items.
And I don't guess it matters. I just have a question. If we're changing it now, why wouldn't country club golf course be zoned some sort of business versus residential?
Well, one is the path forward, and that's what we try to do in the statement of intent. It would take significant change the elephant in the room is the Lexington Golf and Country Club. While this pertains to county-wide, we know the next step is potentially them applying for a special exception. With that being said, it's surrounded by residential zoning districts. So it would take, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would take a comprehensive plan change, maybe even drafting a new zone, if you will, and then propelling it forward with a rezoning to business or business agricultural, something like that. This made the most sense at the time, and I still stand behind it. I think they piggyback off each other, the golf course itself and the residential development around it. They're one and the same, if you will. I mean, the golf courses were the original cluster subdivision that we deal with on, a clustering of small houses around open space. Well, that design sort of propelled golf course design, I should say, propelled the cluster subdivisions. And then some people realize, like, hey, I don't even need to build a golf course. It's the open space that they're enjoying. And I think that holds true to the country club are at hand here. I'm not sure, 100% of them are golfers, or they just include enjoy the open space associated with their subdivision, if you will.
But, so that's the green open space, but it is a business that does require quite a bit of spraying and quite a bit of thing, and there is a water course through the country club.
Yes.
What creek is that? Would that be?
I'm not sure, but that does have associated floodplain. I do know that much, and I do not know the name of it.
Right. So I'm just curious, is there any difference does that affect whether it's business or residential, whether or not how we deal with those issues?
Those issues being floodplain or the water body itself?
The water, yes.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't, one thing, it could be addressed through the special exception if and when the country club ever applies for a special exception. Those are one things that could be set as conditions as far as any prohibition of building in the floodplain.
In particular, I'm just talking about golf courses in general. We all know that typically there's spraying that goes, and that's not always conducive to a residential zone, I guess is what I'm saying. So more business zone, less residential, not quite the green space that you just described, I guess.
Well, I think it'd also be unusual in a business zone as well, as far as large spraying operations, that type of thing. I would associate with that with agricultural use or resident or golf course use, or those are two that really popped to my head now.
That is Wood Creek.
And again, I don't know if that matters. I was just thinking for the operations of the clubhouse, the pool, any type of outdoor event they may have, if being residential, limit their capabilities.
Well, so one thing we put in here, the regulations, and I'm gonna read starting at this sentence here. The regulations for this district are designed to stabilize and protect essential characteristics of the district, to promote and encourage a suitable environment for residents. And it originally said, and to prohibit all activities of a commercial nature. You know, I think that was problematic to begin with, because we have home occupations, we have bed and breakfast homestays, we have nursing homes, continuing care and retirement communities. So it was almost problematic to have that language in there to prohibit all activities of commercial nature. So we are proposing to modify striking prohibit all and limit activities, but also I think this piggybacks on Supervisor Ayers' question. Uses related to non-residential development should be designed to increase the vitality and attractiveness of this district as a living environment. And I think that plays off each other as far as what the country club or what a country club could do in a residential district. Then to address Mr. Supervisor McDaniel's questions, we somewhat carefully crafted this language, and it has to include a clubhouse and it has to include a golf course for it to be considered a country club. It has those two critical items that are required: a clubhouse and golf courses. Clubhouse and a golf course. But then it may include driving ranges, practice areas, accessory buildings, maintenance facilities, and then swimming pools, tennis courts, squash courts, dining facilities, meeting rooms, lounges, retail sales may also permitted as accessory uses. So there's a whole lot. And of course, what we did is we went, when we're drafting zoning text amendments, we take language from all over the Commonwealth of Virginia and sort of mold it into what we think would work for Rockbridge County. With that being said, this was a very common, these types of uses associated with a country club were very common throughout the state. So really what this does is give them a path forward. Sorry, Supervisor Day.
Any other questions or comments? Then I suppose we can open the public hearing. Chris, can you see if anybody's online?
No one is in attendance, and there's no questions or answers, and there are no chats.
No one
And
signed up.
signed up.
So, with that, I guess we'll close the public hearing. And, bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion made, second.
Second.
Will second it. David?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel, I'm sorry. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And you abstain, and I'll vote yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. One reminder, November 4th, 9 o'clock, we'll start our retreat at the Virginia Horse Center. And our next regular meeting is on Tuesday the 10th. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I know we have dealt several meetings with CARES funding, and I know we've talked about setting aside money for certain projects. When do you anticipate us voting or how would that work to go ahead and move forward with those designations?
Mr. Suter?
We kind of take them as the procurements are done. As staff, we feel like we've got our marching orders and with CARES committee to move ahead with those. Specific to the hazard pay, which is not technically coming out of CARES, but the board has agreed to move ahead with that. We're looking at that in November, and I know that Supervisor McDaniel had a good thought that it would be good to have it early in November if people want to start having money for Christmas, Black Friday, that type of thing. That was a thought. So that's where we are. The rest of the appropriations will
move forward as the expenditures.
If we put an update on the agenda for the next meeting,
Okay.
so that we can know exactly where we are.
Yeah, I think, any type of, the hazard pay, although I know that's almost separate, any type of pay going to individuals or businesses that may in turn relate to individuals. I think we need to get that done sooner rather than later.
That's a good thought, yeah. Anything else?
I would like to make one comment about railroad, which I do this one because I read in a paper, I can't remember which one, that we didn't have currently any activities, railroad wasn't having any activities. That's not true. We are running softball, soccer, football, and agility clinics. I saw in the paper, in another paper, where they're actually using the pool, and very happy to see them using the pool with these agility clinics. So, and we started basketball registration last week for starting with 7 and 8. So we are good, happening, coming back from COVID.
Okay, great. Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, and we'll see you on the 4th. Oh, and don't forget, if you want to contribute to the employees, the gift baskets.
Oh, and I was supposed to bring you all.
To get your checks to Spencer.
I don't know anything about it here.